Ethan, why do you need the contact info for sales at Stratos? Leo Martinez's mind was sharp, but for a second, he couldn't keep up with Ethan Hayes' train of thought. Stratos Manufacturing. They built excavators too. Stratos and Apex Heavy Industries, Ethan's company, were both under the umbrella of the Summit Holdings Group. They were spin-offs from the parent company years ago, which basically made them siblings. And like a lot of siblings, they were fiercely competitive. Since their businesses overlapped almost completely, they spent most of their time trying to trip each other up. You steal my client, I'll sabotage your order. The sales teams on both sides were practically mortal enemies. We're going to leak the rock-bottom price on this deal to Stratos, Ethan said, his voice firm. And we're going to give them Ms. Vance's contact information. It clicked for Leo. A huge grin spread across his face, and he practically danced on the spot. Holy crap, you're going to have them take out our trash for us, he roared. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. The other colleagues in the office, a beat behind, just stared blankly at Ethan and Leo. Take out the trash? What does that mean? Hey, you two, spell it out for us. What the hell are you planning? Yeah, seriously, not all of us are running on your high-octane brain fuel. Dumb it down for the rest of us, will you? Leo shot them a sly grin, stepping into his role as Ethan's #1 hype man. Look, right now, Mark Thorne is about to swoop in on Ms. Vance, and if things go as planned, he's going to offer her a lower price on the excavators to get her to sign. And we're just supposed to sit here and watch, he continued. Instead of doing that, we make a move. We secretly contact our rivals at Stratos and let them undercut Thorne with an even lower price to steal the deal right out from under him. Thorne is going to be absolutely blindsided. Leo crowed. When the boss gets back, we'll have a story to tell. We'll frame it as Thorne's incompetence, that his boneheaded move lost us a 100 excavator mega deal. By the time we're done, if he's not fired, he'll be skinned alive. Understanding dawned on the faces of the other employees. Well, what are you waiting for? Call Stratos already. Jessica Carter urged, her tears forgotten. Right now, all she wanted was to see Mark Thorne go down in flames. Hid. Leave it to me, Leo chuckled, then dialed the contact he had at Stratos. Yeah? This is Rick Johnson, Stratos Sales. The voice on the other end was instantly wary. What do you want? Leo Martinez had a reputation, a bad one, throughout the entire Summit Holdings Group. They had a nickname for him, the Apex Bulldog. Apex was his company. Bulldog because the guy was tenacious, cunning, and fought dirty. Some also said it was because he was built like a brick shithouse, a human-sized tank. Just a month ago, Leo had poached a massive client from a guy at Stratos, stealing a 20-unit order for heavy-duty excavators. The president of Stratos had been so furious he'd brought a crew over to Apex, demanding to personally beat the crap out of Leo. But Leo had a background in MMA. He took on all 8 of them by himself. The Stratos president went home with a broken pair of glasses. After that, the legend of the Bulldog was solidified. Leo chuckled into the phone, getting straight to the point. I've got a 100-unit order for heavy-duty excavators in my back pocket. You want it? The suspicion on the other end of the line intensified. You're kidding me, right? Why would you be so generous? Meanwhile, in the conference room, things were playing out exactly as Ethan and Leo had predicted. Mark Thorne was schmoozing Ms. Vance. Ms. Vance, here's the thing. He began. That salesperson on my team, Jessica Carter, she's still a bit green. The truth is, the price for the P2.New-6 model excavator can go a little lower. At that, Ms. Vance's eyes lit up. How much lower? 5%, Thorne said, holding up a hand. Shall we draw up a new contract then? Ms. Vance was clearly eager. The P2.New-6 was a beast of a machine, costing $8 million a pop. 100 units was an $800 million deal. A 5% discount meant saving $40 million. Anyone would jump at that. I've already prepared it, Thorne said smugly, pulling a fresh contract from his briefcase and sliding it in front of her. He shot a look at Tiffany Chun, who was waiting nearby. Tiffany understood the signal. Her job was to be the eye candy. She quickly moved to pour Ms. Vance a cup of hot coffee. However, she lost her footing, her body lurching sideways. The next second, scalding hot coffee splashed all over Ms. Vance's face and expensive blazer. She was soaked. Mark Thorne's jaw dropped. Oh. Tiffany just covered her mouth and gasped. Oh, and that was it. She stood there like a deer in headlights, not apologizing, not offering napkins, nothing. She just stared as Ms. Vance sat there, stunned and dripping with coffee. Thorne, seeing his deal about to implode, scrambled to offer a box of tissues, profusely apologizing. Although Ms. Vance was inwardly fuming, she kept her composure. Let's just sign the contract. She picked up the pen. But just then, her phone rang. Ms. Vance stood up and stepped out to take the call. Ms. Vance, hello. My name is Rick Johnson from Stratos Manufacturing. The voice on the other end said directly. Are you currently in the market for the P098-6 model excavator? I am, she replied. Excellent. We can offer you a price of $7.2 million per unit. Ms. Vance was immediately intrigued. Apex's final offer was $7.6 million after the discount. This was another $400,000 off per machine. Let's meet, she said. She hung up, walked back into the conference room, and smiled pleasantly at Mark Thorne. Mr. Thorne, I've decided not to sign this deal just yet. Thorne's stomach dropped. What happened? She takes one phone call, and suddenly the deal is off? Something was very, very wrong with that call. Ms. VA. Thorne started, ready to plead, to offer an even lower price if he had to. But Tiffany, in a stunning display of incompetence, chimed in. Listen, lady, this is the lowest price you're going to get. You walk away from this, you're not going to find a better deal. Thorne slapped his thigh under the table. It's over, he thought. Ms. Vance's face immediately turned to ice. Did you just call me lady? Well, yeah. I mean, you're old enough to be my mom, Tiffany said, with the baffling honesty of a complete idiot. Thorne was on the verge of tears, frantically trying to signal Tiffany to shut up, but it was too late. Ms. Vance let out a cold laugh. Your staff is certainly memorable. Goodbye. She stood up and walked out. Panicked, Thorne chased her down to the lobby. Ms. Vance, please wait. But Ms. Vance was done. She gave a subtle nod to her two bodyguards. They understood immediately, stepping in front of Thorne and shoving him back. What do you want? Thorne stumbled backward, not daring to go any further. All he could do was watch helplessly as Ms. Vance's car pulled away from the building. Upstairs in the sales office, the team had a front-row seat to the whole disaster. A wave of malicious glee swept through the room. Haha, look at his face. I guess she didn't sign. Sign? Are you kidding? Thorne looks like he's about to be sick. I have to admit, this feels really, really good. Wait a second, one colleague suddenly realized. Doesn't this mean, just didn't get the deal, Thorne didn't get the deal, and now Stratos has it? Isn't that like burning down your own house to get rid of a rat? The comments sobered the room. Jessica, Leo, and the others looked at each other, their celebration dying. Oh crap, we just handed the deal to those bastards at Stratos. Leo slapped his own thigh in frustration. Jessica's face fell. She had been working this deal for over 6 months. She couldn't count the number of times she'd been dismissed or ignored by Ms. Vance's office. At least 8 times she'd been turned away at the door. She'd worn out several pairs of high heels chasing this lead. And for it to end like this, hijacked by their biggest rival, it was too much. Her eyes welled up, and tears began to stream down her cheeks. Seeing her cry, her colleagues felt a pang of sympathy. Jessica was a genuinely good person, driven, enthusiastic, always willing to help, and incredibly professional. Her good looks were just a bonus. Everyone liked her. Seeing her victimized like this, they started brainstorming. One suggested they go straight to corporate at Summit Holdings and raise hell, try to force Stratos to give the order back. Another offered to give Jessica one of his own smaller deals to help her recoup some of the loss. But they all knew these were useless gestures. Finally, all eyes turned to their unofficial leader, Ethan Hayes. They hoped he could somehow turn the tide. Ethan took a deep breath. With me here, he said calmly, Stratos might not be able to close this deal so easily. He walked back to his desk, turned on his desktop speakers, and queued up a song, an old, obscure track called the Money River Blues. And then he started to sing along. Well, the devil plays for keeps down on the bayou, throws his snake-eyed dice, and waits for you. Got my lucky charm, my grandpa's gold piece. Gonna pray to the river, find my sweet release. Oh, Money River, flow on down to me. Flow on, down. Oh, Money River, flow on down to me. As Ethan sang, a wave of relief and excitement washed over the office. Whoa, Ethan's breaking out the big guns. Leo, overjoyed, started singing along. Money River, let flow. According to the unofficial Ethan Hayes user manual, rule number 15 stated, if Ethan plays the Money River Blues, his uncanny ability to attract business increases by 1,000% for a short time. The team called it his Haymaker. It was an incredibly powerful move, but it came at a steep price. Every time Ethan used it, he would fall violently ill afterward. They all remembered a year ago. Apex and Stratos were locked in a brutal, no-holds-barred war over a massive 200 excavator contract with a state-owned enterprise. Both sides pulled out all the stops, dirty tricks, backstabbing, corporate espionage. It started with petty things, like someone from Stratos pouring bleach on Apex's decorative office plants. It escalated to smear campaigns, targeting the personal lives of the rival CEOs. Finally, the conflict turned physical. The president of Stratos had his guys ambush Ethan, beating him so badly he was hospitalized. He couldn't even get out of bed. With Ethan sidelined, he couldn't attend the final client meetings. Apex immediately lost its momentum, and Stratos seized the advantage. It was at that critical moment, lying in his hospital bed, that Ethan had quietly started humming the Money River Blues. After that, the tables turned so dramatically it was like the Normandy invasion of corporate sales. Stratos was on the verge of signing the contract with the Enterprise's CEO, but on his way to the signing, the CEO suffered a massive, sudden stroke and collapsed. He was completely paralyzed. The second-in-command took over, ready to proceed with the Stratos deal. But as he picked up the pen to sign, he had a heart attack and dropped dead on the spot. When the third-in-command took charge, he decided something was seriously wrong. This deal was cursed. Stratos was cursed. He immediately backed out and signed with Apex instead. That single deal was a breakthrough for Apex. It propelled them to the top of the heavy machinery industry, leaving Stratos far behind. But the blowback, as the team called it, hit Ethan hard. He was bedridden for over 6 months. And now, to help Jessica reclaim her deal from Stratos, he had unleashed the haymaker again. Jessica was deeply moved, on the verge of tears for a completely different reason. The power of the move was undeniable. As soon as Ethan finished the song, the phones of dozens of salespeople in the office started ringing off the hook. Clients they'd been chasing for weeks were suddenly calling, ready to sign. The office exploded into a frenzy of activity. But Jessica's phone remained silent. Leo scratched his head. Did the haymaker misfire? He mumbled. Did the good luck miss Jess and hit all of us instead? That's impossible, Ethan said, shaking his head. Jessica forced a smile. It's okay, really, she said. I'm happy to see you all getting new orders. Just remember to buy me dinner later, okay? Her attempt to be brave was heartbreaking, but Ethan held out his hand to her. Give me your phone, he said. I'm going to call Ms. Vance. I want to try one more time. Jessica hesitated for a moment, then handed him her phone. At that moment, inside the Stratos manufacturing production facility, Ms. Vance was touring the assembly line, escorted by their salesperson, Rick Johnson. Johnson was in his element, talking a mile a minute, boasting about the superiority of Stratos excavators and taking every opportunity to subtly trash-talk Apex. Just then, a brand new P098-6 model rolled off the line. An idea struck Johnson. He decided to have a worker drive the machine outside to give Ms. Vance a live demonstration of its performance. However, the moment the excavator was started, something went wrong. First, black smoke billowed from the engine compartment. Then the smoke grew thicker, darker. Finally, flames erupted, and the whole engine block caught fire. Rick Johnson's eyes went wide. Wide. Fire. Put out the fire. Ms. Vance, on the other hand, just stood there with a deadpan expression. Are you kidding me? Is the quality of your machinery always this poor? She asked icily. Johnson's face went pale. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and stammered. Ms. Vance, if I told you this was a complete and total fluke, would you believe me? Ms. Vance's cold smile said everything without a word. Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and saw it was a call from Apex, from Jessica Carter's number. Her first instinct was to ignore it. The memory of being insulted by that brainless assistant was still fresh. But now, looking at the burning wreck of a Stratos excavator, she felt like her options were limited. She answered the call. Ms. Vance, do you remember me? A warm, magnetic male voice came through the line. Ms. Vance paused, an image of Ethan Hayes flashing in her mind. She remembered him from her tour of the Apex facility with Jessica. She had been struck by his presence, by his face. Is this Ethan Hayes? She asked. It sounds chaotic over there, Ethan said with genuine concern. What's going on? Do you need any help? Ahem. It's nothing. An excavator from Stratos just spontaneously combusted. Their workers are putting out the fire, Ms. Vance said, telling the simple truth. Huh. Well, in that case, would you be open to coming back to our office, Ms. Vance? We could continue our conversation about excavators. Ms. Vance sighed, a hint of reproach in her voice. I don't think so. Your machines are high quality, I'll grant you that. But your people are not. The next words she heard over the phone were confident and compelling. The people have changed. Ms. Vance understood immediately. In that case, perhaps it's worth a try. Back in the conference room at Apex Heavy Industries, Ms. Vance, Jessica, Ethan, Mark Thorne, and Tiffany were all seated at the table. Ms. Vance got straight to the point. Regarding the order for 100 P098-6 excavators, I will sign it, but only with your sales representatives, Jessica Carter and Ethan Hayes. If Mr. Thorne has a problem with that, she added, her eyes glinting, I will leave immediately. Thorne's face was a mask of fury. He knew if he refused, he'd have hell to pay when the boss, Mr. Sterling, got back. But a man like Mark Thorne, known for his petty and vindictive nature, wasn't going to give in so easily. Ms. Vance, it really doesn't matter who signs the contract, he said smoothly. But I just spoke with Mr. Sterling. His instructions were very clear. The price for the P098-6 can no longer be $7.8 million. The price is now based on the original $8 million list price, plus a 30% surcharge. He was trying to torpedo the whole deal. If he couldn't have it, nobody could. Jessica was so enraged, she instantly slipped off her stiletto, ready to give Thorne a little impromptu brain surgery. But Ms. Vance put a hand on her arm to stop her, then smiled calmly. I agree. Thorne was flabbergasted. You agree to that? He blurted out. Ms. Vance glanced at Ethan and smiled. You can't put a price on a woman's happiness. Right, Ethan? Thorne sucked in a sharp breath. He stared at Ethan, his mind racing. What the hell is this guy's secret? An hour later, in the sales office, Jessica was recounting the incredible events of the signing. The entire team was in awe. Ethan, my man, you've mastered the art of the honeypot. Leo teased, wiggling his eyebrows. Ethan just waved his hand dismissively. Don't be ridiculous. I don't think Ms. Vance is a shallow person like that. There was something familiar in the way she looked at me. Something almost wistful. Wistful. Jessica paused, a memory surfacing. She opened Ms. Vance's profile on a social media app and stared at the background photo on her page. It was an old, faded picture of a man and a woman, clearly taken 20 years ago or more. The woman was a young Diana Vance. The man was a dead ringer for Ethan Hayes. After a long moment, Jessica finally spoke. I have a feeling. The man in this photo was her first love. Have you guys noticed? He looks exactly like Ethan. Everyone crowded around to look, and a collective gasp went through the room. Holy crap. He really does. It's uncanny. No way. That's too much of a coincidence. So Ethan is the spitting image of her one that got away. No wonder she was willing to sign, even after Thorne tried to screw her over. What's a little money compared to her lost love? A lost love really is the most powerful weapon in the world. So, does that mean, Leo asked suddenly, this deal came through not because of some seduction tactic, but because of Ethan's crazy good luck again? I'd say it's a bit of both, Jessica said, covering her mouth with a giggle. After all, Ethan is pretty handsome. Hearing this, Ethan's face turned a shade of red. I'm not feeling so good, he mumbled. I'm going to head home early. Jessica immediately jumped up. Ethan, it's starting to rain. I'll give you a ride. Meanwhile, in the sales director's office, Mark Thorne was seething, his face a dark shade of purple. He couldn't believe it. Even after all his scheming and sabotage, Jessica Carter had still managed to sign a deal with Ms. Vance. It was infuriatingly absurd. Son of a bitch, he roared. He grabbed the heavy glass award on his desk, a symbol of some past achievement, and hurled it against the wall, where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. The explosion of violence terrified Tiffany Chun. Honey, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? You're scaring me. Thorne whirled on her, his eyes blazing. You idiot. If you hadn't called Ms. Vance an old lady, this deal never would have slipped through my fingers. This is all your fault. That stung. Tiffany wasn't about to take the blame. She planted her hands on her hips. Who the hell are you calling an idiot, Mark? I'm calling you an idiot, he shot back, jabbing a finger at her. You are a useless, incompetent mess. That was the last straw. Tiffany shrieked and lunged at him, clawing and scratching. Her freshly manicured acrylic nails were nearly 2 inches long, turning her hands into deadly weapons. After 2 quick swipes down his face, Thorne yelped, dropped to his knees on the floor, and grabbed her legs. Baby, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Seeing him kneeling before her, Tiffany's anger subsided. She gently touched his bleeding cheek. See, honey, if you had just kneeled earlier, I wouldn't have had to scratch you. Don't you ever talk to me like that again, okay? Thorne nodded frantically. Tiffany helped him up, her expression turning worried. Honey, what are we going to do now? We've seen it ourselves. That Ethan guy is a freak. His ability to pull deals out of thin air is real. We can't compete with that. Thorne let out a cold, bitter laugh. What ability? It's all just office gossip and superstition. You got lucky this time, that's all. Plan A didn't work, so we move on to Plan B. This piqued Tiffany's interest. She tugged at his arm. Well, what's Plan B? A cunning smile spread across Thorne's face. I didn't get to be the sales director at Apex without a few connections of my own. I have a list of potential high-value clients. I'm going to start making some calls, get them to come in for a demonstration. And this time, he said, looking at her, you'll be by my side, pouring coffee and playing the part of the charming hostess. Tiffany understood. She looked at him with adoration. Honey, you're so smart. You're brilliant. Now listen, baby, Thorne said, his tone serious. From now on, you have to watch what you say. Be polite. No more screw-ups, you understand? Tiffany nodded eagerly. Yes. Lesson learned. I will never call a client an old lady again. Satisfied that she'd gotten the message, Thorne's mood improved. He tilted her chin up, a lecherous glint in his eye. So, baby, how about it? What? Here? In the office? What if someone sees? Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Thorne and Tiffany quickly separated. Come in, Thorne called out, his voice laced with annoyance. The door opened. When Thorne saw it was Leo Martinez, he was first surprised, then immediately suspicious. In Thorne's mind, Leo and Ethan were two sides of the same coin. Martinez, right? What do you want? Leo bowed slightly, a practiced, subservient smile on his face. Haha, mister. Thorne, it's quitting time. I was wondering if I could take you out for a bite to eat. I still feel terrible about that misunderstanding this morning when I kicked you. I've been wanting to find a chance to apologize properly. Thorne narrowed his eyes. Are you really asking me to dinner? Or do you have something else in mind? Earlier that day, Thorne had brought Tiffany to the sales floor, demanding that Ethan mentor her. When Ethan refused, they'd gotten into a heated argument, and Thorne was starting to lose face. Leo had stepped in to de-escalate, offering to mentor Tiffany himself. As he did, he had leaned in and whispered to Thorne, "Let me buy you dinner tonight to make up for this." Thorne had assumed he was just saying it. He never expected the guy to actually follow through. After so many years in the corporate jungle, his instincts told him this was probably a trap. Leo, for his part, was rubbing his hands together, the picture of sincerity. Mr. Thorne, what are you suggesting? You think I'm trying to trick you? I genuinely want to get on your good side. With Leo putting it so bluntly, Thorne felt obligated to accept. Fine, I'll give you the chance. I want to come too, Tiffany whined. Ahem, that might not be a good idea, Leo coughed, shooting Thorne a meaningful look. Thorne understood instantly. Wait a minute, is this guy? Holy crap. Tiffany, Thorne said, his tone suddenly official and righteous. Leo and I are going to be discussing company business. It's not for you to join. You should head home. Defeated, Tiffany had no choice but to agree. Later that evening, Leo and Thorne were deep into their dinner. After several rounds of drinks, Leo suddenly started cursing Ethan Hayes, calling him every name in the book. Thorne listened, stunned. From what I've heard, you and Ethan are best friends. At this, Leo launched into a bitter tirade. That's all an act. Just for show. Mr. Thorne, let me tell you, that guy Ethan is the biggest bastard I've ever met. Blah, blah, blah. Leo's performance was Oscar-worthy. Despite Thorne's deep-seated suspicion, Leo's impassioned rant slowly chipped away at his defenses until he was completely taken in. Thorne, in his drunken state, genuinely believed him. He raised his glass. Leo, don't you worry. For the way that bastard Ethan has treated you, I'll get revenge for you. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to make his life a living hell. Cheers. They downed their drinks, and Leo continued to spin his web. Finally, he leaned in conspiratorially. Mr. Thorne, I know this new private club that just opened. They have all kinds of entertainment. Interested? Thorne's interest was immediately piqued. What kind of entertainment? Hit. You'll know when you get there. Leo gave him a mysterious smile. Don't worry, mister. Thorne, the whole night is on me. Hearing that, Thorne was ecstatic, but a sliver of caution remained. Is the place safe? He knew that if he got caught in a raid, he was finished. First, his wife would kill him. Second, it would be a major scandal for the company. Guaranteed. Totally discreet, Leo said, making an OK sign with his hand. A few minutes later, they were in a cab, headed for their destination. When Thorne was led into a room decorated in shades of pink and saw the massive waterbed, his heart began to pound with anticipation. He heard the click-clack of high heels in the hallway outside, making him sweat. The door opened, and a stunningly beautiful woman stood before him, holding a small briefcase. Thorne's mind was reeling. Holy hell, Leo really is a top-tier salesman. The guy knows all the right people. A man with such talents must be rewarded. The next moment, Thorne let out a howl and pounced. But not 2 minutes later, the piercing wail of police sirens erupted from downstairs. "The cops are here!" A woman's scream echoed from the hallway. Thorne panicked. He panicked hard. He scrambled to the next room, intending to find Leo and figure out a way to escape, only to find the room empty. Leo was gone. In that instant, even in his muddled state, Thorne understood. "That son of a bitch Leo set me up," he screamed to the empty room. "He built this whole thing up just to spring this trap on me." The next day, 9 a.m., Apex Sales Department. The team was clocking in for the day. Leo Martinez walked into the office and announced with a triumphant grin, "Comrades, we are liberated. The good times are back." Everyone immediately crowded around him. "Leo, what's going on? What happened? Is Thorne dead?" In response to their questions, Leo leaned back in his chair, crossed his legs, and recounted the events of the previous night. How he'd earned Thorne's trust with a few choice words, lured him to a brothel, called the cops to raid the place, and slipped out before they arrived, leaving Thorne to face the music. "If I'm not mistaken, Mark Thorne is currently enjoying the hospitality of a county jail cell," he declared. "I told you I wasn't a traitor. This was a strategic sacrifice to win the war. Applaud, you fools." The office erupted in cheers and applause. "You magnificent bastard. That's some next level, for D-chess right there. Leo, when it counts, you're the man. With Thorne arrested, this whole thing gets a lot easier. When the boss gets back, we can use this to get him fired for good. He'll have no choice but to resign." The applause was thunderous. Just then, a cold voice cut through the celebration. "Who said I was arrested?" Mark Thorne walked into the office, his expression like stone. The entire sales team froze, their applause dying in their throats. "How is that possible?" Leo stared, his eyes wide. It didn't make sense. It shouldn't be possible. Thorne's icy gaze swept across the room. "Where is Ethan Hayes?" "He called in sick," Leo answered, hesitantly holding out a sick leave request form. Thorne snatched the paper, ripped it in half, and declared, "I'm not approving any sick leave for Ethan Hayes. Call him and tell him to get to the office. If he's not here, I'm marking him as absent without leave." "And Jessica Carter?" She also called out. "She's taking care of Ethan." Leo handed over second form. Thorne tore that one up too. Finally, he clapped a heavy hand on Leo's shoulder and sneered. "Work hard, Leo. The best is yet to come for you." Leo, oh. At that moment, at Ethan's apartment, Ethan was lying in bed, burning up with a high fever. Jessica was by his side, placing a cool, damp cloth on his forehead. "Ethan, do you feel any better?" she asked, her voice full of worry. Ethan managed a weak nod. "This is all my fault. You shouldn't have used your haymaker yesterday," Jessica said, blaming herself. "It's just one deal. If we lost it, it wouldn't have been the end of the world." Ethan gave her a faint smile. "You worked on that deal for so long. I couldn't stand to see you come away with nothing. Besides, it's a huge loss for the company. With this order, the guys in the factory can get some overtime. A lot of them depend on that extra pay to support their families." Hearing him say something so selfless, Jessica was deeply moved. "I never knew you thought about so many people. You're a really good person." She blushed, looking at him quietly, her eyes full of an affection that was impossible to miss. Ethan could feel it too, the emotion hanging in the air between them. "Ethan, what do you think of me?" Jessica finally worked up the courage to ask. For a woman to ask such a direct question, it was practically a confession. "I think you're—" Ethan opened his mouth, ready to answer. But just then, a ridiculously cheerful cartoon bee ringtone blared from the nightstand. "Buzzy, buzzy little bee, open up your mouth and see. Buzzy, buzzy, answer me. Buzzy bee, please pick up the phone for me." "Whose phone is that?" Ethan asked. "It's Leo," Jessica said, picking it up with a hint of annoyance. "Honestly, what's with his timing? So irritating." "You should probably answer it," Ethan said. Jessica nodded, hit the accept button, and put the call on speaker. The next second, a sound like a pig being slaughtered blasted from the phone, making them both jump. "Ethan, I'm done for," Leo screamed. "It's over. I'm screwed. I'm in deep. Help me. Please help me." In a torrent of panicked words, Leo explained how his plan to frame Thorne had failed spectacularly. Jessica listened, exasperated. "Leo, you really walked right into that one. Thorne is never going to let you off the hook now." "It's not now. It's already happening," Leo wailed. "That bastard Thorne is already retaliating. He just demanded that I transfer all of my client accounts over to Tiffany. If I don't do it, he'll fire me. What do I do?" Ethan, struggling, pushed himself up in bed. "It seems," he said, his voice raspy but firm, "that we only have one option." "What is it?" Jessica and the voice of Leo on the phone asked in unison. A walkout, Ethan said, his words landing with a heavy thud. What? Jessica and Leo were stunned. They knew exactly what a walkout meant. It meant open rebellion against company policy. It meant creating a PR nightmare for the company. It meant declaring all-out war on Mark Thorne. And it meant that when the boss found out, the consequences would be severe. A moment later, Ethan ended the call with Leo. He opened a private group chat, the Apex Sales Strike team, and began to type. To my respected colleagues, the sales department is facing an unprecedented crisis. In an attempt to stand up for all of us, Leo Martinez has become the target of Mark Thorne's retaliation. Just now, Thorne demanded that Leo hand over all of his client resources. For a salesperson, our clients are our livelihood. What Thorne is doing is effectively ending Leo's career. Friends, the one who carries the wood for the crowd should not be left to freeze in the snow. The one who fights for the good of the many should not be left to fight alone. The one who clears the path to freedom should not be left trapped in the thorns. If we don't stand together now, if we don't back Leo up, then what's happening to him today will happen to us tomorrow. So, I'm asking all of you, can we stand as one, just this once, and stage a walkout? I, Ethan Hayes, swear on my life that I will take full responsibility for all the consequences. When the boss comes looking for someone to blame, I'll be the one to answer for it. Please. As soon as the message was sent, the chat exploded. Kevin Chun, I'm in. Amanda Zhang, I'm in. David Wong, I'm in. Jessica Carter, Jessica Carter, am in. Ethan Hayes, Ethan Hayes, am organizing this walkout. Leo Martinez, I'm not crying, you're crying. Holy crap, let's turn this whole thing upside down. Back in the Apex sales office, every single employee stood up and walked away from their desks. Before they left, they packed up their personal belongings. Tiffany stared, wide-eyed, then ran to Mark Thorne's office to tattle. When Thorne heard the news, he slammed his fist on the desk. Damn it, they're coming for me. He burst out of his office and ran to the sales floor, blocking the exit. What do you think you're doing? He yelled. Is this a strike? Do you have any idea what the consequences of a strike are? Get back to your desks, all of you. But his threats had little effect. No, they had zero effect. Get out of the way, Thorne, a colleague said with disgust. A good dog doesn't block the path. Move. Screw you, you son of a bitch. Leo Martinez launched himself forward with a flying kick, soaring 2 meters through the air and slamming his foot into Thorne's chest, sending both him and the door crashing backward. The Apex Bulldog was not just a nickname. The next moment, the entire sales team streamed out of the office. The sight made Thorne's blood run cold. He knew he had pushed them too far. If he didn't handle this when the boss, Mr. Sterling, returned, he'd be skinned alive. Everyone wait. Let's not be hasty. Give me a chance. Thorne scrambled to his feet and chased after them. He grabbed Leo's arm, pleading. Leo, my friend, I was wrong. I apologize. Leo didn't say a word. He just delivered another brutal kick. The surrounding colleagues, their own anger boiling over, surged forward and surrounded Thorne, unleashing days of pent-up frustration. Thorne was buried under a flurry of fists and feet. Tiffany held up her phone, her hands shaking as she hit record. Hey, what are you doing? Stop. I'm calling the police. I'm recording everything. Everything you do will be used as evidence against you. Leo's eyes flashed. The police? You'll have to be able to make the call first. He delivered a flying kick, knocking the phone from her hand, then stomped on it, shattering the screen into a spiderweb of cracks. Now, the two of them were being beaten together. What in God's name is going on here? A familiar voice echoed down the hallway. The team stopped their assault and turned to see their boss, Mr. Frank Sterling, standing there. Before anyone could react, Thorne scrambled over to Sterling and began his story, twisting the facts to paint himself as the victim. But Frank Sterling was no fool. He wasn't going to listen to just one side of the story. Just then, Ethan arrived, supported by Jessica. Well, my lucky charm. What happened to you? Sterling rushed over to Ethan, gently helping him stay upright, as if he were made of glass. Boss, what are you doing back so early? Ethan asked, his voice weak. Don't ask, Sterling sighed. That wellness guru who was teaching me about extreme fasting? He starved himself to death yesterday. I figured, what's the point of continuing this nonsense? It's all a scam. So I came back. Ethan nodded, then pointed a trembling finger at Thorne and began to list every one of his crimes from the past few days. After hearing the whole story, Sterling turned to Thorne, his eyes cold as ice. You're fired. Get out. Apex is no place for garbage like you. Thorne's face went ashen. He knew he was finished. He glared at Ethan, his voice dripping with venom. Ethan Hayes, I'll remember you. You better watch your back. For the rest of my life, I'm coming after you. We'll see who has the last laugh. Ethan just smiled coldly. I'll be waiting. But just at that moment, a group of police officers entered the building. The officer in the lead flashed his badge and asked in a loud, clear voice, "Who is Mark Thorne?" Every finger in the room pointed at Thorne. "Mark Thorne, during your arrest yesterday in connection with an anti-prostitution raid, you assaulted a police officer, causing serious injury. You are under arrest for aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer." At those words, Thorne's legs gave out, and he collapsed to his knees. He knew it was over. Leo, on the other hand, leaped into the air with a whoop of joy. Haha, it turns out I was the MVP after all. 6 months later, Ethan had fully recovered. He was appointed as the new sales director. He continued to use his uncanny luck to lead the company to new heights of success and glory. A year after that, with the entire company as their witnesses, Ethan Hayes and Jessica Carter were married. The CEO of the parent company, Summit Holdings, personally officiated the wedding. Another year later, they had a baby boy, and with the birth of his son, Ethan's incredible luck grew even stronger. My name is Ethan Hayes. Besides being ridiculously handsome and impossibly lucky, I am completely useless. It's a fact that fills me with a deep sense of inadequacy every single day.